Hi everybody, Eve Everett here, and this is the second annual Christmas in July edition of What's Sold on eBay. We're going to be covering antiques and vintage Christmas items, so don't miss out. Christmas in July is so on. Alright everybody, like last year's edition, I'm going to split this up in two. First part is going to be items that I sold throughout the year that I find interesting that are related to Christmas. The second part is going to be consisting mainly of items that I chose that have sold that are kind of exciting and interesting to me in some way. Most of them are going to be mid-century. There will be some antiques, and it's all going to be a lot of fun, so stick around. But let's go through what I sold first. Alright, first up is a series of mid-century, maybe late 40s to maybe mid-70s items that I picked up over the course of the year and put them up on eBay. This is for a nativity scene, essentially. They come apart at the bottom. They were both made in Japan. The top of these palm trees are made out of like of course I'm not going to remember the word for it. Oh, like those pipe cleaners. Yeah, pipe cleaners. Very simple thing, but they were made essentially to be used in your glorious plastic or paper mache nativity scenes that anybody may have put up for their Christmas displays. I sold these for $42.99, and they sold in about 11 days. Here we have two little, they're called putz items. Kind of means like little things. So if you go into eBay and you type in PUTZ, and look under Christmas items, you'll see a whole bunch of different things pop up. I don't know if you were alive in this time. Maybe I'm dating myself a little bit here, but back in the late 70s and 80s, and before mid-century, I would say, people would put up these little villages around their Christmas trees and enjoy looking at them, playing with them, whatever. And these are called little putz houses. These are also, some of them are made in Germany. These were made in Japan. They have mica on them. They have beading, glitter, the whole works, blue and pink houses, who knew? And I sold this, actually I sold a series of these to the same person, so I did give them a break on price. If you go look, you'll see various prices on these. Price them higher than some of what you're seeing, because they'll go, trust me. In any event, I did sell these for $24.99, but I sold them for that because they were sold as like a big part of multi-sale. So $24.99, and I think these sold in like under a couple weeks. Same story with these. These were also made in Japan. It's a little pink house with beading and a church. I sold them to the same person for $24.99. Here's another putz type item where you'll see people putting putz in the title. Maybe keyword spamming, but it works. Anyway, these are, perhaps you've seen these. They either belong in nativities or you'll see these in Christmas villages sometimes. This particular little guy is a ram. He's got these gold tone horns, actual shearling slash, I guess, like cotton woolly bear type of fur on it. And it's either composition or paper mache. I can't remember which. These can be a little fragile. You have to be kind of careful on packing these. I sold a couple of these to the same person, different than the person that bought the houses. This one sold for $32.99. That is probably on the low end. If you'll take a look, you'll see that some of them can go for quite a bit. So you should probably price yours in accordance to the condition and age. This one I was a little uncertain on the age, probably mid-century. I don't think it's any older than that. But in any event, it sold for $32.99, and it sold in a couple weeks. This is an older, I guess he's a little sheep. Has a little old frayed pink ribbon with a bell. Probably underpriced, this guy. I originally had it for $39.99. It does have some moth shoes, and I think part of the leg is missing. It can stand up, but it's like I think like part of it was chipped off. In any event, I ended up, since it was going to the same person as part of a multiple order, I sold this guy for $26.99. If I see vintage Christmas wrap or Christmas wrap at thrift shops that has like some sort of attractive vintage motif, or maybe it'll have like Garfield or Heathcliff on it, something maybe 80ish, I'll usually pick it up if the price is right. I got these at the Weigh and Go and ended up selling these for $22.99. It did take me several months to move them, but they're pretty cool and they didn't take much room, and they were relatively inexpensive to ship. I did ship these media mail since it was a paper related product. A little bit of a stretch, but I think it works for this. So $22.99. Okay, and I'm very excited to just, what the heck, move on to part 2, which is getting into more of the Christmas, best of the best Christmas items that people have been selling throughout the year on eBay. Now, of course, remember that this is all seasonal stuff. Sure, it will do better during Christmas season than as opposed to other seasons, but I do think that if you you know, especially with the vintage items and the hard to find stuff, if you stick to your guns, you are, you know, you may get slightly under fourth quarter prices, but you know, if you're picking up like an aluminum Christmas tree brand new in the box for $20, you know, in let's say February or March, and you put it up for a couple hundred or so, and you know, you sell it, as opposed to waiting to like fourth quarter, maybe getting like, you know, $300-400 or more for it. I mean, you just kind of have to like balance that. I mean, I think the best time to be looking around for hot items for seasonal stuff is when it's off season. You're just going to get better deals. You may have seen, depending on your age, these around like the Weigh and Goes and just out and about. You definitely saw these growing up if you were a kid somewhere between like the 50s and the 80s. This is a glorious plastic set of, it's a chandelier, and most of the time they use like these orange and yellow bulbs that will literally just melt your face and give you third-degree burns. You know, it's definitely one of those things as a child where your parents were like, don't touch those, and you touched it and like your, you know, your skin melted off your fingers and you had no fingerprints for weeks. But they're awesome. And when I do find them and they're working, or even if they're slightly working and maybe a bulb or two is out, I pick them up cheap, especially at the Weigh and Goes, because they will move. This one just happened to have the box with it, and this person, oh, by the way, keep in mind, these are not my sales. I'll let you know for the most part that when I talk about part 2, I'm talking about sales that I've kind of reviewed and decided that they should be in a video for eBay. These pretty much do well a lot. So if you see these chandeliers, definitely grab them. They will move. This particular one, it was in nice shape, it had the box, and the person sold it for $50. But take a look at your finished auctions, especially as you get closer to the season. You'll see these things do very well. All right, and again, this is part 2. I'm carefully curating everything that I'm showing you here so that we have sales that are essentially timeless, that are going to do fairly well for you and are not duds regardless of the time of year. I mean, obviously if you can, shop on the off season, hold them and resell them, but I'm kind of looking for timeless items that you can pretty much put up in July, Christmas in July, but yeah, I'm here all week, people, and sell it and do pretty well. In any event, this is Dugan Carnival glass. This is a Christmas compote. You can see the holly design on this. It's actually a blue with purple iridescent piece. If you hold like the older turn of the century carnival glass with the repros, for example, like Fenton from the mid 70s through 80s, you can really see the difference. Especially if you're looking at the molds and the seams and just in general how the color is done. But in any event, really fantastic piece here, and this person was able to get $3,450 for this Christmas compote made by Dugan Carnival Glass. All right, so before we get into this one, I bet you know at least probably who made it, or at least are, have a working knowledge. This is Pyrex, and if you've ever made a casserole, or a family member or your mother or grandmother made a casserole, at some point you have seen Pyrex. Now, this is Pyrex, but it has a very interesting rare pattern, and quite frankly, I almost wonder if maybe going through a thrift shop at some point I've seen this pattern, in many years ago and just kind of passed over it. Because if you were to find this Pyrex now, with the lid, you would be able to get $1,150 for this piece off eBay. So that is pretty awesome. And if you have this somewhere in your house, dig it up. Even the other pieces do fairly well too. So Pyrex, Merry Christmas, $1,150. This is Noel, made by, this is actually Holt Howard, although in general, when you're looking at Napco and Lefton figurines that were made for Christmas, you can get some really super cool ones. These are anthropomorphic figurines from Holt Howard, actually, and they spell out Noel, and just the expressions and the looks on their faces are just phenomenal. This particular set sold for $1,025. In contrast, here we have some candy cane pixies, candy cane elves. These three folks were made by Lefton, and they're really cute. And this set did sell for $67. And this is Napco, a trio of angels with their little gifts. And these little Napco figurines went for 110 bucks. And oh, aren't these adorable? Now I will say this, these are Lefton snow babies, and they have like what they call like this spaghetti, I guess it's like a texture to them. It's almost like one of those rentals where you got like that popcorn wall, and if you rub your hand against it, it's like painful to touch practically. Similar thing almost, but they call it like this little spaghetti texture. They tend to do very well. They're usually on like animals, especially poodles that were made into figurines in the mid-century. Here we have, though, that spaghetti texture on these cute little snow baby figurines by Lefton, and these sold for $50. Now, like I said, I will say this about Lefton. They have this really interesting way of everything looks sweet but also completely psychotic, like they're little mass murderers. So that's just my personal opinion. People love them, they're collectible, and I say if you see something that's going to sell, for the most part, if you can pick these guys up for maybe 50 cents at a church thrift shop or yard sale, go for it. This particular pair went for $50. Actually, moving on, here we have a very scarce California pottery Santa with spaghetti trim, doing some sort of shimmy. This is about 10 inches tall, and he did sell for $525. Okay, if you ever see Rushton, be sure to check it out. Some Rushton can do very well. This particular Rushton item is a Santa slash Coca-Cola collaboration for a store display, and it sold for $525. This is a gunned rubber-faced reindeer. It does have a little music box there to it, and this one sold for $616. Let's go back in time and look at some antique items. This is a converted weather vane that was put on a mount, and this person was able to get $1,780 for it. Some of these older early 1900s pieces with German Santas are particularly desirable, even if they're not in great condition. This particular Santa is a hunched-down Santa with a fairly elaborate tree for the turn of the century, and he sold for about 1,300 bucks. Here is another German Saint Nick with a feather tree, and the ones that are going to get you the real money, they run usually anywhere between 12 to 13 inches high, and there's got to be something interesting about them. In this case, you have a Saint Nick with a feather tree, and like the other one, it roughly went around and sold for $12.95. Here we have an antique Christmas sleigh if you really want to just go all out and splurge. This is an antique Christmas sleigh from the 1800s. Not sure I'd want to use it now, but it is a cool piece. The red velvet restoration on the seat there is pretty nicely done. It did sell for $950. Here we have another turn of the century item that is also German. This runs about 41 inches tall. It's a feather tree. It's kind of hard to find them in decent condition like this nowadays, and this one did sell for $750. Yep, it's a Christmas sleigh. It's an ugly pig, and it sold for $709.98. Don't ask me, I don't know. People tend to love like these primitive lighted Christmas ornaments like this. Go look them up. You'll see they can do very well, or they crash and burn. This particular little guy did great. If you're out and about and you happen to see old Dresden Christmas ornaments, you want to pick them up, especially when they're kind of weird, and I don't know. I don't find this one very interesting, but it's interesting only in the sense that it's a Dresden. I believe this guy's like a little gnome, and he has his little cup and he's drinking out of a barrel. So you can have a drunken Christmas, but you'll be happy if you do, because if you sell this one, and Dresden tends to move fairly well, you'll get about $1,650 for one little ornament. All right, so for those of you that want kind of, I don't know, look, everybody has their own thing when it comes to the holidays. This is not my thing, but if creepy looking cotton spun German ornaments from the early 1900s is your thing, pick them up and sell them, because this little guy with his forlorn, mostly eaten Christmas tree in his hand there went for $135. Also, here's a very nice grouping of more German spun cotton ornaments. I think they're all hideous, but if you're into, like, I guess you could do like maybe like a really primitive Christmas tree, you know, antique-y looking, creepy. I know, I'm sorry, I'm trying to like sell this to myself and I can't. But if you find these out somewhere, I think that if someone really doesn't know what they're looking at, but you do, you'll do quite well and be very happy. This particular group of German cotton spun ornaments sold for $3,900. All right, I'm really sorry. We got to switch gears, abandon ship. I like antique Christmas, but some of that's just kind of not my thing. Anyway, this is a John and Yoko Ono t-shirt saying Happy Christmas. And on the front it says, I believe it says like war is ended or something like that. Usually you can see this shirt, it's hard to find obviously, can go anywhere between $400 and $800, and this particular one sold in the higher range for $795. Okay, let's switch gears. Here we have a series of plastic and aluminum items from the mid-century in all their spectacular plastic tacky glory. I picked out, again, I curated the best of the best for you all, and I hope you enjoy what I'm going to show you. And perhaps even more fun, and I don't mean this in a mean-spirited way, is you're going to get to see the inside and outside of people's houses. Now, it'll be fun to see, but you may give yourself a pat on the back for your wondrous house cleaning abilities, because I think in some of these pictures you'll feel like they somehow photobombed themselves, but honestly some of the decor matches up really well with the item that's being sold. So I don't mean it in a mean-spirited way, it's just kind of fun. That's one of the things I like to do in a way, is kind of check out how other people live and sell their things. Anyway, moving on, this is a wondrous, these are the Polaron blow mold mechanical pieces. You got a snowman and a Santa Claus, and these two whoppers sold for $1,750. Yep, you gotta believe it when you see it. Two wondrous, roughly 5 foot tall, giant blow mold candles with a nativity scene and their original boxes. Now, I know what you're thinking. What a hoarder! But This hoarder is going to get the last laugh because these sold for $700. Not too shabby. All right, now these are one of my personal favorites only because they're just kind of weird, you know. They're kind of like, I don't even know, just they got no, you know what it is? They have no arms. They're kind of like painted onto the plastic there. These are 3, again, blow mold carolers in Christmas colors, and they do light up, and they sold for $599. Yeah, that's what it is. They don't have, like, I don't know, I expect them to have arms and they don't, and they're singing with their little mouths open like carolers, and so they're kind of fun, kind of creepy, very mid-century, and again, $599. Okay, so nothing says Christmas like pegboard and some really strange looking V.C. Andrews-ish sort of gothic looking print on the wall, and I think you can't really see it very well, but it's like a pink Chanel bedspread. So I guess, oh, and the pink swans just really help. But this woman probably is scoffing at me because this lovely pink puffed finery is by Kirk's Floss, and it sold for $475, and it's only 5 feet tall. And not to be outdone by a ceiling fan and like a pink poodle figurine and some various other things in the background is this glorious bright green aluminum 7 feet tall Christmas tree, and it is stunning. Really nice piece. This person said that they got theirs. It was like basically a store display, and they were very lucky to get their hands on it, and they sold it for $646. Here we have a 8-foot gold aluminum Christmas tree by Evergleam. Now, again, you know, I don't want to sound mean-spirited by picking on people, especially when they do really well in sales, but are you kidding me? Anyway, $834. So, good sale, really super cool tree. Here is a 7-foot Evergleam with its original box. I like these kind. At the end of every limb there, they have kind of like this little burst of aluminum that's almost like a little flower on the ends of them there. In any event, this one was taken outside. I think that was probably the best choice, and they lined it up pretty nice. They sold this for $8.99, and it's a really gorgeous tree. Here's possibly one of my favorites. This is a Kent turquoise, blue, and green aluminum tree, about 7 feet tall, sold for $595, which to me is a little bit disappointing just because the color on that is just show-stopping. Imagine your grandparents coming over and seeing that tree. I guess that they would remember that tree because people had them. So I guess maybe I'm thinking they'd be shocked and they wouldn't be, but that is one colorful tree. And here is your standard Holland mold Christmas tree. Now is the time, people, to go out and find these things at the thrift shops because you can probably get a pretty good price on them if you can dig them up. This one's a Holland, and it sold for $149.99. I don't care what anybody says, I like this tree. I mean, you almost have like this Hanukkah thing going on at the same time, which is kind of weird, but cool. Anyway, I know. Don't get me started. Probably shouldn't have said that. Anyhow, this is really cool tree ceramic with blue lights, and it did go for $67. Anytime you can find a blank mid-century holiday card that has like this glitter on it, and it's got like this very iconic mid-century motif, has to have glitter on it, like, and also be like pinks and blues, and or just like the classic mid-century Christmas. Either of them will do quite well. This one blank card went for $37. Here's another mid-century teal with angels that went for $29. And finally, here's your typical family around the tree with the cat, dog, decorating the tree. This one went for $33. Here we have a really stunning Americana Christmas postcard of Uncle Sam, and he's carrying his tree. It dates to about 1914, and he has his bag of dolls and flags and Christmas presents to carry. I believe this was published by DRGM, sold for a staggering $1,100. Oh, and it's one of these hold to the light postcards. So very, very cool, iconic Americana Christmas postcard. Here we have a very rare Roseville pottery pattern. This is a juvenile pottery Christmas mug, and it sold for $895. As you can see, these are some really fantastic with-the-box Soviet USSR era bubble lights shaped like spaceships, and some lucky buyer got these for $650. Super cool mid-century glass Italian alien slash astronaut there in the classic sort of 1950s, what we envisioned as, you know, what an alien astronaut would look like for that time period. $67. Just what anybody would want for their aluminum Christmas tree would be Shiny Bright. Shiny Bright was a company, basically post-World War II, that just mass manufactured a boatload of Christmas ornaments. Some people have done these phenomenal wreaths where they've basically made an entire wreath of Shiny Bright Christmas balls. Really some neato stuff to look at on Pinterest, so take a look. Here we have about 150 of them, and these sold for $890. And this is to show you can't always win with Shiny Bright, though. Some very nice items here. Nice striped Shiny Bright ornaments with the boxes. However, this person got, I don't want to say only because they didn't do so bad, but it was $68 for 3 boxes. I would say this atomic ornament is one of my absolute favorite for today. Really super awesome atomic 50s era space piece. With the kind of like spaceship look to it. This one sold for $57. Here we have 2 elf musician elves from Hong Kong. They sold for $34.98. This is a vintage Blenco glass figure of Joseph, Mary, and baby Jesus, sold for $105, because after all, a vintage Christmas in the 70s would not be complete without like orange, yellow, and green somewhere in that picture. Here we have a box of 1940s vintage mercury glass ornaments, and you can see some birds with the feathers. And what's very interesting about this box is if you see to the left there's like this, it's really hard to see. It's a hand painted at the bottom. It's like a bright blue, and it looks like a pitcher. It's got this really tiny blown glass handle. It's right above the 2 birds with the fake feathers there. Hopefully you can see it. I have that exact same ornament in like a hot pink with painting. So talk about weird. I'd find like the identical ornament somewhere across the country in a different color. But yeah, I have the same ornament, different color. In any event, beautiful visual feast here. This person did a good presentation job. They did get $64 for this box of ornaments. And finally, nothing says Christmas like these 4 mid-century TV trays with the Christmas design on them. And someone did manage to keep the box, and this set sold for $184. All right, everybody, that wraps up the 2nd annual Christmas in July What's Sold on eBay. Keep an eye out for this stuff. Summertime is probably the best opportunity to get Christmas items for rock bottom prices to resell. As always, check eBay to look at the comparables. Make sure you're going to get a good healthy profit off your stuff, and good hunting.